Welcome back, everyone, to the Leverett Ball Show. And on this episode, I am joined by three-time Emmy winner Josh Canu. And Josh, how are you?
I'm good. Good to hear from you, Leverett. It's been a while since we've had a chat, but always was a pleasure knowing you back in the day when you worked with us.
It's been a minute. Yeah, roughly 10 years ago, I interned at NBC Sports Boston, where you still work as an editor. You've won 3 Emmy Awards since I saw you last. You didn't have any the last time I worked with you, so I'm surprised you even still talk to me now that you're a big deal.
I don't know about all that, but yeah, no, it's definitely a cool thing to have some of those because it's one of those you get. I'm not a big needing recognition guy, but I remember the first one was really special, and everyone since has been pretty cool.
I know you do a lot of work specifically with the Celtics because NBC Sports Boston, they cover all the Boston teams, but they have the broadcast rights for games for specifically the Celtics. And I mean, was that always your goal to do NBA stuff, or were you more just back in the day interested in working in pro sports in general?
I was mostly pro sports in general. I grew up playing hockey my whole life, so I was really connected to that sport. But when I started working for NBC at the time, it was actually Comcast Sportsnet. Obviously being the home of the Celtics, I always liked basketball. I used to like call games, play-by-play in college, and basketball was by far my favorite to call for whatever reason. So it was kind of a nice fit. And then in 2014, I ended up on the Celtics assignment, and I've been doing it ever since. But yeah, it's one of those like I have interest in all sports, but being able to work with at NBC with the Celtics specifically has been awesome.
Wow, and I mean, it sounds like you've obviously had quite a great run with them. It's funny because I first met you, like I said, when I was interning there before the name change, when they were called Comcast Sports
Yep.
Network, Comcast Sportsnet, and I interned under Maury Levine, who still works there.
hmm
And obviously, it's such a well-known channel here in the Boston area, but for anyone listening who doesn't know kind of how TV works behind the scenes, what's it like being there on a day-to-day basis?
So yeah, it's we're a regional, so it's not as big as like an ESPN where there's people who are, you could watch one show and there's a ton of people working it. We're actually a much smaller shop than people would think. So, and now we're in a building. We actually share a building with NBC 10 and Telemundo. We're all in the same house. So it's a lot more people than it was when we worked in Burlington back when you were there. But the sports team is still like, we're still a small unit, but it's, I'm in a different part of the building because I'm in an edit bay. But there's the typical newsroom set up, and there's a lot of collaboration between people.
Yeah, you mentioned, you guys used to be located in Burlington. You guys were in Burlington when I was interning there, but it's funny because when I talked to Maury Levine recently, and he gave me a tour of your new office.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and it's just this like state of the art facility, and it's pretty awesome. But I want to talk about your background a little bit also because you studied at Ithaca College, which
Yes.
has a very good broadcasting program. I've worked with a number of broadcasters from Ithaca since I saw you last. And I know you actually did some on-air work when you were at Ithaca. Was the initial plan to be on air, or did you always want to eventually get into editing?
I think like most people who go into this field, like everyone wants to be on air when you're younger because that's what you
Hmm.
see on TV. You see the guy sitting at the desk or whatever. And I pretty much primarily in college just did almost all on air work, whether it was anchoring or reporting. I did a lot of play by play, like I said, calling basketball and football primarily, but I even called like soccer and lacrosse, and I didn't know anything about lacrosse, but I called it like a hockey game. So it's just one of those things. And for about the first like 8 months I was out of school, I was kind of looking for some of that stuff. I did some voiceover work. But then it was actually Maury was the one who hired me also at NBC. I started doing some freelance editing work because going to Ithaca, you get the full background of how to do everything. So even though, a lot of the stuff that I was actually practicing was on air, like I knew how to use Final Cut, which is the software we're using at the time, and I was familiar with producing and ENPS, which we used at the time. So it was one of those I started working it, and the more I did it, I was like, you know what, I really like this. It's different. And there's I decided at one point because I did actually have a job offer to work in Paducah, Kentucky, but I think it was one of those, like, I kind of looked at myself and I was like, is this something I really want to pursue, or do or do I really like what I'm doing now and want to pursue this? So that's just kind of how the transition happened. But yeah, like most people, I think, who go into this field, like on air is the big sexy thing that you see on TV and that you want to do, but then you learn some of the other aspects that go into TV. There's so much more to do with it. So yeah, that's how I ended up on the path I ended up on.
Well, it's interesting because, my career has mostly been on-air stuff. I've done some production stuff. The people I've met who work in production, it's a mixture of some people who, like you maybe initially thought they were going to do on-air, but then there are also some people in production who find on-air to be just the last thing they'd want to do, and they
Yeah.
find any type of public speaking terrifying, and they never wanted to be on air. So it's interesting. Some of the people who work in production, they have different types of backgrounds. Also, what you said about, how you would have had to move to Kentucky to be on air, the lifestyle for someone on air is very hard. And, you have a full-time job as an editor, but, when I first got out of college, I started doing freelance on-air work as a play-by-play guy on ESPN Plus, but it's not a very high volume of work. And initially, it's not really a full-time job. You do like one game a week. So, I was technically on air, but I was, doing Uber driving and working at bars and hustling. And so the lifestyle, and, for you, if you'd wanted to be on air, like I said, you would have had to go to Kentucky. So the lifestyle for someone on air can be pretty miserable. It's not a great time in Boston sports right now.
It's been a rough month.
Yeah, very recently the Celtics and Bruins got eliminated from the playoffs. The Red Sox are in the middle of their regular season. They currently suck. Their manager just got fired. Their outfielder, Jarren Duran, actually wrote something on social media recently ripping one of your NBC Sports Boston coworkers, Michael Holley, and I think that might have more just been his frustration from the bad season boiling over than anything to do with Michael Holley. I don't know, though. I don't want to speak for Jarren Duran on that. But then on top of all of that, the Patriots season hasn't even started, but their head coach is in the headlines because of this whole cheating scandal. So how has it been working at a Boston sports media outlet?
Well, as you know, it's never a dull day in Boston sports. It's one of those, and the machine is always going. But the last month has been very easy for the radio shows or our talk shows or any shows to have plenty of content because, I'll start with the Celtics season because that was the one near and dear to me. Like, that was obviously a big disappointment because obviously this year the expectations were lower and it was a really fun year. But once Tatum came back and they were playing so well, like, okay, this could be fun. They get up 3-1 against a team like Philly who clearly wasn't that good, as you saw the Knicks handle them. And it's just like, whoa, the season's just over. So, and now we're back to what we get to every offseason where they're trying to trade Jaylen Brown, which that's a whole nother thing. They shouldn't do that. They won't do that, but it's just every year. But then the Bruins, I believe they got eliminated the day or two before the Celtics did. So it was just like all our playoff teams were gone. And I think the Red Sox whole manager and firing all that staff was like that week too. And then, the Patriots, this Vrabel thing has just been a whirlwind. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes going into the season. But in terms of for us, it's a content machine because there's so much to talk about it and about it. It's especially now with social media and the internet, it's all about things that are getting attention and people just can't get enough of whether sometimes it's the negativity or you get these TMZ type storylines, I like to call them with Vrabel. People get fascinated with this stuff, which is good for us because then it's just content.
100%. And I know I kind of threw 4 storylines at you because they're all happening at the same time. But I know you mainly do Celtics work. Has that been the thing that you follow the most closely? Is their season ending? Or, kind of what, what's the talk of the office normally when you get to NBC Sports Boston these days? Because so much is going on.
If I told you some of the stuff that I follow, you'd be like, how do you have time in the day for anything else? Because I'm a big golf fan. I even follow the UFL, that B-League football league. I follow that. So so I'm aware of everything going on. And like I said, I grew up playing hockey. So I've always loved hockey. Everyone loves football. I get hot and cold on baseball, but I still follow it because it's the summer. I follow the WNBA. But yeah, in the office, Patriots always seem to run it in this city. Right now, the last pretty much since the Brady Belichick era. Even since then, it's football's what sells. So if there's something football to talk about, that's what the lead is, unless if it's something crazy. Because even though we're the home of the Celtics, our other shows, a lot of the times, you're leading with football most days just because that's just how it is. And the Celtics get the lead if there's something big that happens or like them getting eliminated. But with this whole Vrabel thing, it's like you go in every day, it's that, and you're coming off, like, obviously we just got through NFL draft season, which is always big. So, and now the schedule came out, I believe, on Thursday. So that was the big thing. Everyone was sitting there in the meetings looking at the schedule, giving out their own opinions of, oh man, the Patriots could start 0-4, 0-this. So
Ooh.
football pretty much always is runs the town, I feel like, in general. Um, and I mean, I get it. I love football too. It's the most popular sport for a reason. But yeah, I think especially in this city with the success the Patriots have had the last 20 years and the big names that were here, it's still kind of that way. And now you have like the next generation of that with Drake May and Mike Vrabel, who I assume is still going to be here. So
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, and before we go any further, though, on Boston sports, you said you watch the UFL. Do you ever watch the IFL, the Indoor Football League?
I have never actually watched the IFL. I have to draw the line somewhere, you know?
Okay, because you know who actually I used to be? There was the Massachusetts Pirates of the IFL. They've actually moved. They now are in Florida, and they're called the Orlando Pirates. But when they were the Massachusetts Pirates, I was their sideline reporter on Nesson. So I figured maybe, me sideline reporting for IFL was what inspired you to watch obscure professional football leagues. But back to the topic of Boston sports, though, you're right. Football, I feel like anywhere football gets the most attention. The NFL is the most popular league out of all the major sports leagues. Now, with the whole Mike Vrabel thing, I personally think that, if you do something that hurts your family, you deserve to face the wrath of your family, but not the wrath of the general public. I think it's nobody's business, but most of society doesn't think that way. People love to gossip about other people's relationships, especially the relationships and personal struggles of public figures. But looking at it from a football standpoint alone, you said you don't think he's going to lose his job. I don't think he will either. I mean, he just took the Patriots to a Super Bowl this past season. They were the second best team in the NFL. I mean, and again, I mean, he hasn't done anything. He's done things that are maybe unethical, but not illegal. But from a football standpoint only, I mean, how does this affect the football side of things? Or do you think that the season will start and they'll just focus on football and we'll be able to move past this?
I think nobody's probably more ready for games to actually start than him because, like, you see that all the time. It's off season, it's always full of distractions, whether it's, last year was all the dig stuff and then they get on the field and it's like, oh, he's contributing to the team. And I think at the end of the day, especially, like, I agree with you. I don't care about that stuff personally. That's why I always call it like the TMZ stuff. But when you're in the public eye, it's especially like with athletes now, people are obsessed with their lives. So it's going to be a discussion point, whether you want it to be or not. But I just think it's one of those things, like, he's a leader of men in that locker room. So as long as he still has them, I think it's fine. His owner has had his own types of stuff. I don't even want to say adjacently, but so I would think that there's probably a little bit more of a leash there, but that's just me speculating. But yeah, I think it comes down to it's like he goes in that locker room, he faces those guys. I would assume most of them are probably fine. There might be a few who, like, ethically have major problems with it and it could affect the relationship. But I think as long as he's able to do his job effectively and he doesn't lose the locker room, I see no reason for it to really have any effect on the field. I mean, we're so far away from games at this point anyways. We haven't even got to, like, mini camps and stuff like that. So I think it's one of those things by the time you get to the season, it might still be a story here and there, but once we start getting to games and scrimmages and practices and all that, like, it'll slowly drift away, and I don't think it'll affect them at all.
There are definitely other coaches and players in the NFL who have cheated on their wives, and no one knows about it. So as far as how it got out, was there someone who was trying to take Mike Vrabel down or maybe take down Diana Rossini, a media rival of hers who went out of their way to leak that story and maybe spy on them a little bit?
I think this case, the reason why this one's just so unique is because she is a reporter who actually covers the league. And so, obviously there's been plenty of athletes dating reporters, especially in this city too. It's well documented. But I think this one is being someone who is an actual NFL insider providing inside information. And it kind of like, especially like the whole AJ Brown thing is, I think, what blew it up. I have no idea how it got out there. I mean, she has a husband. He has a wife. Like, it's one of those things, like, was it a random person who took a photo or was it someone who might have been directed to it? I don't know. But I would say there probably was someone who wanted it to get out there. I don't know who, but I think in this scenario, it's just one of those things. And it's funny when it does come out, you start to hear these other stories, and like Titans fans who, when Vrabel was the coach, were well aware about these two, like kind of like having a relationship or whatever. But it's true. It's one of those things where there is a lot of things that never get out. Because I think it depends on the people. I think it depends on people who are willing to release the information. I think there's a lot of things, especially people who cover teams, they hear things all the time, but you don't go public with everything. I think a lot of people also like to have multiple sources with things, because I think that's smart, because you just never know if you're getting bad intel. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think this one's just became so unique because it was someone who actually is an NFL insider, more than like just someone who's providing like information to the public. And it just obviously that information's being a little skewed in this. And I think that's why like it stinks that it's come down really hard on her and it's probably cost her entire career. But it's unfortunately, I think that's just the nature of the way this one was. It is just such a unique thing because she was a national NFL insider. So it is a crazy situation though to think about.
Yeah, and I mean, and we won't talk about this the whole episode. My final thought on that, though, as far as it hurting her career, it's possible it'll end her career, or it's possible it'll redirect her career, or maybe she can't get work as an NFL insider, but she can be a podcaster, or do this or do that. So we'll see. Do you have any intel on like exactly what happened with the Alex Cora firing?
Pretty easy to say. There's definitely been a rift between Cora and the direction of where the front office wants this team to go. I think Breslow's the easy target because obviously he's the GM, but I think no matter who's in that role, they're limited on what they're allowed to do. So I think it's one of those like Cora seemed like a guy the last few years who's just kind of seems like this is just again me speculating. I'm not saying it didn't work hard, but it felt like he was just on autopilot. And I think ownership has liked keeping him in place because he's very popular with the fans. He's very popular with the players. But I think this year, with how disappointing the start was, and you can just tell there was definitely some things that seemed to be major disagreements between them in terms of roster and how to do things and how to play and who's up and who's down, and that I think it was just one of those things. They made a decision like we got to get a clean house here because it wasn't just him. They fired a bunch of coaches, including Jason Varitek, who we thought would probably be in this organization forever. So they completely facelifted their approach, and they brought in a manager who wasn't even coaching this actual team. I believe he was coaching one of the minor league teams. So it was to see a facelift that quickly into a season, like that just tells you that they've just been it's something that I feel like they were thinking about for a while. And it's just one of those things like they started so poorly, like we're going to do it now. But yeah, it's frustrating because the Red Sox have a lot of these fun young players. We saw last year, they way overachieved. They were fun. They spent money and got a Garrett Crochet and extended him. They went out and they spent money on a Ranger Suarez. They kind of let the bat walk away in Bregman and didn't fully replace him, but it's just one of those things. It's like there's pieces there that there are reasons to get excited, but it just feels like there's not a consistent approach in what they want to do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, also, I think honestly, the main reason the organization has struggled has been because of ownership. With, John Henry owns multiple professional sports teams, not just the Red Sox. And I think he's not all in and not willing to spend as much as he possibly can. And that's why the team has done badly. But, at the end of the day, the owner isn't the one who gets fired. It's either the GM or the manager. And oftentimes, GMs will fire managers to try to cover their own ass and have someone to blame. And so I think, Breslow, part of why he fired Cora was out of fear for his own job security. Also, it's funny, Jason Varitek, I believe his first season playing for the Red Sox at the big league level was 98.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had his playing career with the Red Sox, was a team captain, had a bunch of accolades, and then he's been, on their coaching staff for so long. It's funny because they fired the entire coaching staff. What they did with Varitek was they offered him a new role that they knew he wouldn't accept, so that fans wouldn't hammer them about firing Jason Varitek. That's how you indirectly fire someone who fans love, is give them an offer they won't accept. It's like when the Yankees got rid of Joe Torre as their manager years ago, they actually offered him a chance to come back for like 5% of his previous salary or something they knew he would decline so that fans wouldn't hammer them for firing Joe Torre. So it's funny how all that works. But I mean, as far as the product on the field, I mean, do you think that it'll get to the point where they're so far out of contention they just start trading people, or what can we expect? I mean, I think probably attendance at Red Sox games the rest of the summer will be significantly less. For anyone in the Boston area listening, I guess maybe the ticket prices will go down if you want to go to any Sox games. But, I mean, what is there really to look forward to the rest of the season, if anything?
Yeah, it's tough. I think the focus that I'll be making when I watch the team is you got to focus on the young players. They've obviously they've pretty much all started the season very poorly, which is disappointing. I mean, Roman Anthony, he's been hurt now, but he, after having a very good World Baseball Classic, has been bad for the actual team. Mayer's been off to a slow start, but I think it's one of those they do have a lot of young players that I think there's a lot to look forward to there. But I mean, so far this year, you have Garrett Crochet, who was a Cy Young candidate last year, and this year he's getting hammered, giving up tons of home runs, and now he's as on the DL, which usually when pitchers are struggling to do that. Suarez really struggled to start, but I think he's settled in his last few starts. So it's one of those things. Baseball is a long season. We see it all the time. Whatever the standings are, and what are we, mid-May right now? They're going to be drastically different in a couple months. So who knows? It's one of those things. Maybe they get hot, but I just don't think their lineup's very good. I like the Wilson Contreras signing, but it'd be nice if they still had Alex Bregman with them, because it's just the lineup just isn't good. And until
Yeah.
those young guys kind of flourish, it's like the Caleb Durbins of the world. They're just not up to snuff. And you mentioned Duran earlier. I think he's a young, exciting player. I like players with good speed, but he's not very good in the field. And clearly he's not afraid to speak his mind, which I'm perfectly okay with. But it's just, I think the mentality of this team is just, it's been a reflection of how they've been playing, which isn't very good. So I think until that changes, it could be a very long summer here in Boston, because you got the Bruins. It doesn't seem like they have a chance to get much better. The Patriots got to get through all this drama, and then the Celtics, who knows what they're going to do with their roster. So it's going to be an interesting summer here in Boston.
Yeah, I agree. And also with Duran, you mentioned he's not afraid to speak his mind. I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing for him, because one way that it's been positive, he opened up about some of his mental health struggles, and
Yeah.
I think he was in that Netflix documentary, and I think he was probably able to inspire a lot of people battling depression with the way he opened up about that. But on the flip side, I think when his willingness to say anything hurts him, one example is the Michael Holley thing, although there was also his incident yelling a homophobic slur at a fan. I think when you're just able to speak freely, it is a double-edged sword. And so I think there are some ways that his openness has been positive and some ways that has been really negative. And it's funny, I've met Michael Holley a whopping total of once years ago when I worked at WEEI. He was a radio host there, and I was in a really unimportant entry-level job, and he was really cool towards me. He didn't try to big league me or anything, even though I was a nobody at the time. But I'm not under the impression that he's a guy that a lot of athletes dislike. He's known for being a good guy. I think really Jarren Duran, like I said earlier, his frustration from the bad season is boiling over, and he's kind of firing at anyone in his crosshairs. But, we'll see what happens with the the Red Sox continuing to suck, and, the Mike Vrabel, personal life drama. But as far as you and your career moving forward, I mean, what are you looking forward to in the near future? Or I guess, you've been at NBC Sports Boston for a long time. You've had a great run there. What types of projects and things are you looking forward to doing with them in the near future?
Yeah, so the summers are a little different for me because obviously during the season I'm covering games. Their schedule is my schedule. This year, again, for the second year in a row, ended a little earlier than I thought. Last summer, though, I got to work on we did a little mini documentary on Jaylen Brown, kind of taking the opportunity of Tatum was going to be out. So we kind of looked back at Jaylen, this is his 10th season. This is his first chance to be the guy. And, I feel like we kind of nailed it because he went out and did exactly what we were hoping he would do. But that was pretty much my whole last summer. I worked directly with one of my other coworkers who does exclusively Celtics, one of our APs, Mark Hazlett. And we were the primaries on that, and it took a lot of our summer, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm going to have a project like this summer because you can't, doing types of stuff like that, you can't force it. You gotta have the opportunity to do something, but it's always looking for little things to do, whether it's going to be Celtic stuff or other stuff. I think the fun part for me with the summer is I take a lot of vacations in the summer, obviously too, because I'm working all year round. So I lose nights, holidays, and weekends. But I am looking forward to finding some projects to work on because the one that we did last summer was very gratifying. And it was a lot of fun to work on. I love doing stuff like that too, because different than what the normal aspect of my job is. So we'll be definitely looking for opportunities, whether it's probably not like a full documentary like last summer, but maybe like little like short pieces that, whether it's about players or storylines. I think we're actually bringing back our game show that we did during the pandemic, Celtics Census. So that's something to look forward to because that was a lot of fun. So I think we're bringing that back as like a little summer project to try to, spin some positivity with the Celtics news. So yeah, it'll be interesting summer for sure because I think today or tomorrow was supposed to be Game 7, Celtics Knicks, if they would have advanced, and it's obviously not happening, so it's kind of crazy.
100%. And you mentioned, with all your Celtics work, probably in season, you have very little free time. So it's cool. You get to enjoy yourself a little bit in the summer. I saw on social media you were recently on vacation in Spain.
Yeah.
Must have been a good time. So it's awesome that you're kind of able to recharge and relax a little bit after you probably work like crazy when the Celtics are in season. But, also for any, big Josh Canu fans, they're looking to keep up with you on the socials. What are your handles that people can follow you at?
I'm not as active on it's called X now anymore, but
Yes.
it's my name. It's all one word, at Josh Canu. I am on Instagram as well. I don't post a lot in general. I am on social media a lot because working in sports, like Twitter's a great news source, and I enjoy Instagram because I love looking at pictures of people's travel and food like anyone else. So I enjoy that. That's J Canu one on Instagram. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. Every now and then you'll get a tweet. But they are a lot more few and far between from me now. But I still am very active on there because I don't know about you, but that's still where I primarily get most of my sports news. I feel like where all the insiders are and the information still comes first.
Oh, yeah.
Even with
Especially
that
breaking
platform
news.
changing. Yeah. It's really, I feel like that platform wouldn't have really kept on existing without sports because it's kind of perfect for that like news type aspect of sports. And I have so many memories over the years of like, sometimes like you're watching a game and it feels like you're watching with like 100 people because everyone's reacting at the same time. I think that was like the really cool aspect of social media. And I think that's a little harder now, but I think there's still enough of it there. So that would be the best place to get me in terms of like sports stuff. Cause I always am active on there. Always checking.
But, Josh, obviously you've been killing it with your work at NBC Sports Boston. 3 Emmy Awards now and counting. Who knows how many more you'll end up winning. But, great to see you doing so well. And thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Of course, of course. So once again, everyone, that's our guest, Josh Canu. You've been listening to the Leverett Ball Show.